as acceptance of objectification does not allow for belief in absolute truth or morality, subjective significance. Those intolerant of objectification are almost always observed to be unable to argue a reasonable basis for the tolerance of objectification on the merits of the argument alone, or refute an argument where an argument contradicts their acceptance on the merits of the argument alone, and generally resort to victimization, appealing to an audience's shared experience of the tolerance of objectification, presupposing futility to be or think otherwise. Objectification is not the following. It is not the demonstration of one's beauty, e.g. dancing and clothing. Rather, it may involve this without respect to their subjective significance, e.g. the manipulation of dancing, manipulation of clothing, exposing oneself without commitment, etc. The giving of pleasure is not objectification, but turning oneself into an object without subjective significance for the purposes of giving oneself or another person pleasure is. One's involvement in objectification for another, for their communicated desires, is natural. There is no natural barriers to prevent this from occurring, as we can only see another's subjective significance, their true self, and their true desires via their willing expression of themselves. One's belief in another's desire for sexual contact, based upon subconscious signaling, and their actions to satisfy this desire, and the other's belief in their desire for sexual contact, based upon their subconscious signaling, and their reciprocation of these actions, is natural. It may be an understanding and therefore non-intentional objectification. Ideally, one might expect, desire, and rely upon another person to know what they desire most, and in this might accept their desire as their own. But when both desire what they think the other most wants, without risking communication of their subjective significance, lest it contradict the other's desire, instances of non-intentional objectification may occur. Objectification is not the development of one's body, it is the indiscreet presentation of one's body. A desire for someone or a desire to be desired is not objectification. Objectification is not the questioning of another's capacity as a mate, which, like objectification, may generate the need to respond. Objectification is not the having of feelings for someone, but these feelings come as a human management of our base desire to objectify or to be objectified. The opposite of objectification is love. Objectification is the manipulation or the confusion of a consenting relationship. It is the product of contradictions being introduced into a perceived mutual desire for sexual relations. Objectification is achieved by reducing another person or oneself to an object in their mind in any circumstance. Objectification is the abuse of good. A more public example that illustrates this definition is the abuse of morale in wartime. It may involve teasing another person, where another's morality, trust, is used for one's own purposes. Conscience is a product of belief in one's own and another's subjective significance.